Hello, everybody. I'm Mikey.
And I'm Corey.
Every week we discuss and review a new book, movie, album, TV show, or honestly any piece of art or culture that ourselves and you guys choose. This is Mind Control. So there was these people who were being kidnapped and mind controlled.
Exactly, dude. And I can totally see how that happened. Because, like, imagine if you were just given acid or just drugs like that are so disorienting for hours and hours on end and never being able to come down and not feeling safe and having somebody tell you things and accuse you of things, you know? Yeah.
Mind control. That's how we do it, baby. GG's. Mind control.
All right. Well, hi, everybody. How's it going? Welcome to Mind Control. I am Mikey.
And I'm Corey.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
I guess we're going to have to get used to that. For future reference, I'll just pause. Sure. Anyways, yes. What is up, everybody? This is the podcast that we are calling Mind Control with Corey and Mikey. And I'm super, super excited about it. It's been something we've been talking about for like 2 months. It feels like maybe not that long, about a month or so.
No, it's 2 months. It's been a good amount. Yeah, because I had to get the book and read it and everything.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's been a while.
Yeah, I'm excited too. It was a good opener too. This book is pretty.
It's perfect.
Fucking heavy.
It's perfect for a podcast called Mind Control too, which is like it's funny because I didn't really make that connection. I was just like, oh, this is a good book, and this is a good podcast title and concept, and it all just worked out perfectly. But
it was meant to be.
I finished reading this book about like 2 to 3 weeks ago, so I'm not as fresh on it as you are. Which is good though. I'm excited because I'm happy to hear your thoughts on it. And I did a lot of research even in the last couple of days, just like on new things and trying to find a summary. So for those who are listening, the book we're about to, I don't know about review, but discuss is a book by Tom O'Neill called Chaos, Charles Manson, the CIA and the Secret History of the 60s. What did you? If somebody asked you, what did you think about that book, Corey? What would you say?
Oh man, so I'm just gonna start. I remember when you told me about it as like the first book that we were gonna do, and you told me about what it was about. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little skeptical because, I've heard the Charles Manson story, but I never heard about like it being connected to the CIA or anything like that. I'd never even heard that theory. Maybe I'm just behind because apparently that's been a theory for a long time. It's funny, I had never heard that.
It's funny because when I sent you the text, the first thing you said was like, "Is this fiction?"
Yeah, dude, because that's what I thought. I was like, okay, maybe this is just like somebody wrote a book about Charles Manson and it's like, from his perspective or something. And like, I don't know. I didn't know it was real. And then so I was a little skeptical getting into it because I'm a little skeptical of some of, like, obviously I follow some conspiracy theories, and some of them for sure like happen, but a lot of them are such bullshit that lately I feel like in my later life, I don't really pay attention to them as much. Dude, the thing that struck me from the beginning though was that I felt like the author had that exact same point of view, as he went into writing about it, it was, just for the magazine premiere. So he didn't really have much of an interest either. And even getting into it, he seemed skeptical, which was kind of cool. And I love how like it just provides so much fucking proof and documentation that all this shit happened that it's kind of hard to like refute any of it,
Yep.
Like, obviously they can't put the whole story together, but the shit that he presents makes a lot of sense as to what could have actually happened, dude. Later when we talk about it, remind me to bring up the Whitey Bulger because I think it's very like prominent to like the same thing with Charles Manson. I don't know if it's the same thing that happened but it's very similar, like the circumstances. Yeah.
Okay. It's funny because you said that he mentioned that in the podcast, but
because you've seen The Departed, right? Or Black Mass. Have you seen Black Mass is with Johnny Depp or The Departed with you never seen The Departed either?
Is that like a true crime movie with
with Jack Nicholson and Matt Damon and
I don't
Leo?
think I've ever seen it. Nah. I should.
Oh, dude, both of them are about the same guy though, Whitey Bulger, and none of them ever bring up what I'm gonna talk about, but they're both really good movies. So when I saw his name when I was looking up shit, I was like, oh shit, that's pretty crazy because he was a pretty famous, like he killed a lot of people. I think he went to prison for like 19, but they said he probably killed a lot more people,
I don't
it's very interesting.
I don't remember him talking about that on the podcast.
Yeah, he talks about it very briefly, but I was like, oh shit, he took it.
No, I have no idea, so I'm super interested to hear what that is. So,
yeah, but what did you think about the book? Obviously, you read it first, you know.
Well, I mean, to quickly try to summarize real quick for somebody who has no idea what the book is about, if I was to summarize it like quickly, it'd be basically like everything that people think that they know and what goes down in history as what happened with Charles Manson and the Sharon Tate murders is probably just a small fraction of what really was going on behind the scenes. I feel like I literally took the exact words that Joe Rogan described it on his podcast. So, but either way, that's basically what it is. There's so much more that happened and that went into the murders and went into the reason why they murdered and how they murdered Sharon Tate and everybody else who was there. And it's first off, I didn't know much about the Sharon Tate murders at all. Like, I didn't know that she was even pregnant. Like that idea that I feel like I had heard that before, but when I heard it in this book and he told the story of it, it tripped me the fuck out. Like they killed her and her baby, and then what's her name, the crazy chick who was there supposedly like put her finger in one of the stab wounds and licked it. Supposedly,
I don't. Yeah, so I know there was. I don't remember which one did it. Was it Susan Atkins? I know so. She was crazy, and then there was like Linda Kasabian, and then Tex Watson, and there was one other chick.
That's you.
I can't remember the other chick's name. Yeah, Tex. Fuck that. Dude, they're fucking crazy, dude. Like I didn't know that much about it either. Like I knew she was pregnant, and I knew they killed these people. But honestly, beyond that, and that they all like took acid and like revered Charles Manson. I didn't really know much about it either. So that's why it was cool. I always just thought like, oh, it was a cult murder. They were all fucking off their rocker, you know, but then getting into all this shit, like obviously they were all still crazy, but getting into all the things that the CIA and the FBI was actually doing behind the scenes. It's like, well, I mean, like, fuck, dude, there was probably a lot of people that were affected by this shit that, you know, you just don't see much about because maybe they didn't kill people, but still like, it's crazy, dude. When I was looking up things, I was just reading a lot about how they don't even, there's like reports where they don't even know how many people were affected by a lot of these research programs, and you know that they should have been compensated for, or at least their medical bills taken care of, because they just said a lot of people were like permanently damaged, you know, and then just left to their own devices and just thrown out, you know. Yeah.
I was just listening to the Tom talk on the podcast, Tom O'Neill, and he was saying that it was like 20 to 25 years that they were doing these type of experiments, that the CIA was under MK Ultra, or it was called two different things before MK Ultra, I believe.
Yeah, it's Bluebird and then Artichoke.
There you go. Yeah. Exactly, under those two names, that they were doing it for like over 25 years, or around 25 years to people, and it was so undercover that nobody knew. So there was these people who were being kidnapped and mind controlled and brainwashed and shit, and for years, for decades, and it's like all these different stories of alien abduction, and I was kidnapped in the government and this and that. Like there were people that we considered psychos and back then, and maybe still do, which gets into even to a deeper thought I wanted to talk about. But like the fact that they were doing this for 20 to 25 years, even before the Charles Manson shit happened, is fucking wild. And the amount of stories that there can be, that there are. Imagine like all the different type of crazy wild experiments they did on people for that, since then and even until now, bro. I feel like
dude, you're gonna like it then when I get into all this shit, dude, because there is so much. It pretty much starts like a lot of them start in the 40s, you know, which is around like MK Ultra, like 46, 47, and like, dude, it's like for like 30, 40 years they did crazy fucking shit to people, you know, like really fucked up shit, you know. It's pretty crazy, and it's crazy how much of it took place at the more I was looking into it, how much of it took place at orphanage homes and homes for the mentally disabled. I think Tom O'Neill talked about it in that podcast where they said that like Jolly West, I think, or one of them said that that's why they like to do it at like mental hospitals, because nobody's gonna say, oh, they're telling the truth. They're like, oh, they're just having delusions, you know? It's like, it's easy to brush them off. Oh, no, they're just crazy. That never happened. They're just crazy. And it's crazy how much of it actually took place at those institutions, at orphanages. A lot of it were with a lot of the kid studies were with orphans that didn't have parents. And I'm like, this is fucked up, you know?
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy, dude.
It is fucked
but
up.
Dude, Jolly West is pretty crazy.
Fucking Jolly West, bro. I want to do an entire video on him. I'm going to do an entire video on him soon. Hold on.
I tried to find more information about him, but it was really hard to find anything that Tom O'Neill didn't already find on him. I was going to say this just so I don't forget, dude. That one of the most interesting parts of the book to me was that I already feel like Charles Manson and that whole topic, it's a pretty interesting topic, but I guess that would be my thing to tell people who might want to read it. You should, because even though that seems like such an interesting part, I felt like Charles Manson was like the least interesting of everything. Once you start getting into the CIA and the FBI, it's like, fuck, dude, like I didn't even really care about Charles Manson anymore. I was like, dude, this is pretty crazy. Like, and just the amount of evidence he actually presents. And I love that at the back, like there, you know, you can actually look up all the documents he talks about, which is kind of cool, you know? So none of it is just, and I like that he's very careful about saying what's fact and like what's speculation, you know? So it's pretty cool. It's not just like, I feel like some people could brush it off as, oh, like I did when I first thought like, oh, a conspiracy theory book. Yeah. And just like him, but it's like, once you read it, it's like, no, like shit, this is actually fact. Yep. And like, he discovered a lot of things. Like, that's what I was saying when I was looking up shit, dude. I swear everything that's like out now is pretty much like co-authored by him or has his name on it. Cause like he discovered just so much shit in his 20 years, like investigating it. It's so crazy to me.
You can tell he's a legitimate journalist. He's an old school journalist. Cool. Yeah. You know, he's out for the facts and he wants to do it the right way. He's not out to like make money and all some bullshit.
No, yeah, dude. I remember in the podcast he says he's like fucking broke now.
Yeah. I'm sure he's not now. Dude. I'm sure he's not now. I heard that the book was like sold out like for weeks, like that they had to.
Oh, really?
That it's after he went on the podcast that it blew up and it was like sold out.
Oh, hell yeah! Hey, cool. I'm glad though. You know, I'm glad.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Definitely, he put in a lot of work, you know, and it definitely like it shows. And it was such a like, dude. I swear, I don't remember last time I read a book this quick. Like, I read it in like 4 or 5 days, and it's like what almost 600 pages. It's just great. You know,
listening to it was kind of rough because I was listening to it at work. So there's times at work I have to like kind of like pay attention to what I'm doing. and it's sometimes all work, and like if you just miss a person's name or a few lines, you kind of get lost, you know? So I had to re-listen a few times. So I probably listened to the book probably like almost twice just because I re-listened.
No, honestly, this was a good book to buy because I had to highlight shit, dude.
Yeah.
I had to highlight the names, especially.
Like a Bible?
Because,
like an old lady's Bible?
Because in the beginning, dude, there's so many names, you know, and then once they get into like the Smiths, the David Smith and the Richard Smith, and I'm like, oh, wait.
It's funny that Joe Rogan told him that. He said something about like, there's a lot of people in it. It's kind of hard to follow. And he's like, yeah, we should have put a character list, which would have been a good thing. But
no, he should have in the beginning, but it's still, you get it, you know, after you go through the whole thing. Yeah.
It's so good, isn't it? I think I should read this summary.
Okay.
It's just so that it's really long though. I kind of want to read the first few paragraphs. Yeah, just so people can kind of have an idea of what we're talking about.
Just because, I feel like a lot of the shit we're just kind of talking and like someone's probably like, oh, what the fuck?
Yeah. So this is kind of long, but I'll try to read it and we'll try to like and I'll go through it and we'll discuss as it goes along. It was written on most of it's written or all of it's written on a website called bookforum.com. So shout out to them and shout out to Sean Howe because this is his. It's not really it's like the most well-written article that also feels like a summary to me. And at first I just wanted to read the first couple paragraphs, but then after I read them, I just got stuck on the article and it really kind of summarizes it well. So shout out to them. But it starts at in 1975, the Washington Post interviewed JFK assassination researcher Harold Weisberg, who'd spent 12 years working 18-hour days to disprove the Warren Report, which is another fucking crazy-ass situation or thing I'd love to really get into. I've never really got into JFK. Sitting in the cluttered Maryland ranch house from which he self-published his findings, Weisberg confided a fear that history might judge me a goddamn fool or Don Quixote. Anyways, Obsession and Fear also torment author Tom O'Neill throughout the journalistic epic chronicled in Chaos, Charles Manson, the CIA, and the Secret History of the 60s. What begins as a routine assignment for Premiere Magazine, a 30th anniversary story about the murder of Sharon Tate, goes cockeyed when research starts pointing to cover-ups. Deadlines come and go, Premiere kills the story, and the once prolific journalist sets out on a compulsive quest to understand the discrepancies in the investigation and trial of the Manson family. As the months turn to years, O'Neill's career is sidelined. He attempts to wrestle his research into a book proposal, all too aware that he's risking his credibility with his accumulating speculations and, quote, swimming deeper into the waters of conspiracy, where as near as I could tell, only the real nut jobs had wandered before me. So to quickly comment on that, the book really kind of goes into his history and how he started writing this article for Premiere Magazine about the Manson murders on the 30-year anniversary of them. He didn't want to do it. He thought it was like, just like a lame story. He didn't think there was anything to it. And like it said here, in researching more, he started to find things, and that's when he started to really get into it and it be a deeper thing. I think 5 years after he was supposed to do the story, the magazine ended and was shut down. And it's so wild to me that this guy back in the early 90s, I think he started writing the book. Am I tripping on that? No, wait.
Yeah, it was supposed to be in 99 for the 30-year anniversary.
Yeah. Oh, no, late 90s then. Okay, so
like 98, 97, I think is when he started. Yeah.
So it took him over 20 years to get this damn book done, which is so wild.
Yeah.
But it's a trip, and it shows how intense that the information he found was, and invigorating or whatever. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's so cool that he pushed through all that. And even after, the magazine was gone and, he's literally just some dude in his apartment trying to fucking figure out this Charles Manson conspiracy or whatever the fuck it is, that he had the balls and the confidence or whatever to continue to write the book is wild to me. And I think Tom O'Neill's a badass.
No. Yeah, he is. He's a badass. He's broke now, or he was broke for a little bit. Yeah. Yep. But yeah, he's badass for doing it,
Mm-hmm.
Or is there more summary?
Yeah, there's more. I'm gonna just keep. This kind of goes into like almost. It kind of summarizes, I think, most of the book. So that's what. So as I'm talking,
we'll go into.
Yep. Mm-hmm. The official story itself quite nutty. On July 25th, 1969, Manson ordered 3 of its followers, Bobby Beausoleil, I think that's his name, Mary Bruner, and Susan Atkins, to rob music teacher Gary Hinman. They tortured him for 2 days, at which point Manson instructed them by telephone, you know what to do. Beausoleil stabbed Hinman multiple times, and Atkins and Bruner smothered him with a pillow. Manson told them to leave signs implicating the Black Panthers, so they used Hinman's blood to paint a wall with the words, political piggy. On August 8, Atkins, Patricia Krenwinkel, Linda Kasabian, and Charles Tex Watson left the Manson commune at the Span Ranch, drove southeast for 40 minutes, and murdered 5 people at the Benedict Canyon home of actress Sharon Tate. The word pig was written on the front door. On August 9th, that group, joined by 3 other members of the Manson family, went to the Los Feliz home of grocery owner Lino LaBianca and his wife and killed them. The words "death to pigs" were written on the walls. The August murders went unsolved until November. The case broke when Atkins, in jail on charges for the Hinman murder, boasted to her cellmate. Vincent Bugliosi, assigned as prosecutor, went to work. So there's a lot right there even to unpackage. And that's like a very oversimplified summary of all that. And it's so crazy that reading that, it kind of feels like, oh, that's pretty cut and dry. But just knowing everything that you know after reading the books, it's like, what the fuck? It goes so much deeper.
Dude, and then Vincent Bugliosi, however you say his
Bugliosi.
name. Vincent Boogie. Dude, he was crazy, dude. And then when they got into his backstory, he beat that girl and made her miscarry, and then was stalking the milkman.
He murdered a child, an unborn child. Like,
he
I don't
did.
understand.
He beat her until she miscarried. Yeah,
that's so
dude,
crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, he seems.
Have you ever read Helter Skelter?
No, I always wanted to, and now I definitely want to, but I mean, I feel like now because I've read this, I'll probably be like, oh, bullshit,
Well,
just because like after reading this,
even Tom O'Neill though said that there was some, that there's a lot of bullshit, but it was really well written and blah blah blah.
Yeah, I hear it's an amazing book. I've just never read it. The whole Black Panther thing seemed weird to me. I mean, I know they believed like in the Helter Skelter, like that would happen. But yeah, I didn't even know that was one of the I mean, I had heard the Helter Skelter thing, but I didn't know it was a common theory that they thought, or that what is it? Helter Skelter, the book put forth that they were doing that to start revolution and trying to frame the Black Panthers. I never even knew that was what they used to put them in prison, that was the like kind of official motive, that and the Terry Melcher thing, it's I always just thought it was like they picked famous people and they wrote pigs on the wall because they're rich and use, that's always what was my belief. So it was weird hearing that story. And it doesn't really make sense when you think about it. And then after reading this book, it's like that doesn't seem like why they did what they did,
Yeah. And then there's another idea. I feel like I don't remember where I was hearing it, probably the podcast, but I feel like there was another theory that they were talking about, like why that house, and there were why Sharon Tate and why that house in particular did Charles Manson and his family choose to go kill people, and the Helter Skelter theory is that it was because they were rich, actors and actresses and all that. And there's the other theory, I guess, would be that it was almost like a political move to I don't know, it's like overshadowed by this Black Panther idea, and in a sense it was that, but it was deeper than that also. And
because what the thing was that they were going to go in there and kill these rich white people and then make it look like the Black Panthers did it. So then the police would turn up the heat on the Black Panthers. And then the Black Panthers would get sick of it and go on an all-out race war. And then the Black Panthers would actually win that war. But then Charles Manson believed that they wouldn't be able to rule, that they wouldn't know how to do that. So then him and his followers would rise up from the hole they've been hiding in and take over. And I was like, dude, like, okay, I could see that they were probably far out and believe this, but I can't see that was the reason for the killings, especially like looking at, and especially the fact that they probably killed a lot of other people. And I don't know, it just seems, and they were all pretty proud of the killings, like I would think that if you were really trying to make it look like the Black Panthers did it, like, even when you got arrested, you still like, I don't know.
Why stop? Why did they stop there? Why wouldn't they have continued to murder more people? And maybe
there is that theory. They said that they did, because remember they even talk about how they started digging up ground, but then they got the order to stop digging.
But like, why were those so quiet and the Sharon Tate were so loud? You know what I'm saying? Like, why make those quiet killings and then after doing all this other shit? You know what I'm saying? Like this crazy widespread killing of these famous people, and then all of a sudden start killing nobodies in the desert and nobody's knowing about it. That's
exactly. Yeah, it didn't make sense, And then the whole they said that they were trying to send he was trying to send a message to Terry Melcher, who lived there. Before, but then that didn't make sense. Because he lived at Sharon Tate's house before her, and then he was trying to send a message to him because he didn't sign him for his record deal. But it's like it's weird because what he talks about it later, that Terry Melcher met up with him several times after and hung out with them. So it's like, obviously he wasn't scared or trying to send a message. And then he even says that Charles Manson knew where he lived at the time. And if he was that crazy to go kill somebody, he would have just went to kill him himself, So
didn't he go visit them before the murders too? Like
Terry Melcher? He like left a bullet at Terry Melcher's house or something, because I guess for not signing him. Dude, also they did that with Dennis Wilson. I was reading, I don't know, the Beach Boys have a song. Wait, I wrote it down.
Yeah, that was written by Charles Manson.
It's Never Learn Not to Love, but it used to be called Cease to Exist. And Charles Manson was pissed because he didn't get any credit. It's like credited to Dennis Wilson. Yeah, dude, there's a couple songs. Guns N' Roses has a song called Look at Your Game, Girl, and that's written by Charles Manson too.
Wow.
Yeah, and then Marilyn Manson. Dude, I heard the songs. They're they fit in right with the time of the other music, though. Like that's what I mean. Like but it's nothing great, but it sounds like everything that was coming out at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's pretty crazy though. I never knew that like he had actually had songs that other people did.
Yeah,
that
I had known.
Kind of
I had heard that before, that he had written music and that he was pretty good.
Some people really liked him. I heard a lot of people were good friends with him. Before.
Yeah,
because I remember they talk about that, but they don't ever really mention who. But that he was like around. Especially around Hollywood and the music industry.
I can only imagine the different like connections and different situations and shit like that we'll just never know, because especially just
nobody wants to admit it, and nobody's gonna be like, oh yeah, I used to kick it with him,
And there was no phones, there was no TMZ, there was no goddamn Instagram, nothing was.
Paparazzi wasn't everywhere to capture everything,
It's wild.
So it's
wild.
like we'll never know.
That's another one of those things that I was saying, like it's so many. This book opened up this entirely new world of stories and information and shit like that it's just like it is so interesting to me that we'll just never know, and a lot of it. But there's definitely people still alive now who have all that information or have information that can change the world, like in a sense. Which is wild. But,
I think it would be good to just note that in the book, like just talking about it, that because we talked about the theories that Helter Skelter gives, but like the theory that it's all speculation. Let me just say that first. But that what Charles Manson was, because he was around the Haight-Ashbury Free Medical Clinic, and he was around people who actually worked at for MK Ultra at the time. That a lot of the theory that's not really said in this book because they don't have exact proof, but what they're putting forth is that Charles Manson was part of these experiments where they were trying to teach people to be killers or mind control, and then not have people remember things. And it's just, people think it's weird that he was around all those doctors and scientists, and he happens to be the one that was able to basically control these ladies. Because and some of his other followers, like a lot of them stood loyal to him until they were old. Some of them until they died. Even when they were in prison, were still steadfast that he was Jesus. And it's like, not many people have that control that it lasts over the span of a lifetime, So a lot of people think, well, where did he learn to do mind control, shit like that?
Yep.
And the theory is that he was around why can't I think of his name? Was it Richards? No, it was shit. Who was it? The dude that was at the Haight-Ashbury Free Medical Clinic. And he was his parole officer too.
Reeve Whitson?
And he was also,
no, not Reeve Whitson.
I
know his
Richard
parole.
Smith, right?
Yeah,
Richard Smith. Yeah,
I believe so.
Yeah. It was one of the Smiths, because David Smith, I think, was the one who opened it.
He was one of the
Richard
Smiths for sure.
Smith, because he would go meet him at the Free Medical Clinic, and at that same Free Medical Clinic, Jolly West had an office there, who was one of the premier researchers for MK Ultra. So it's just like all very fishy, and he was going there, what they said, almost on a daily basis. Charles Manson was there, and that was the summer or two before he started getting a ton of followers, and that was like, so it's weird. It's like, where did he learn? Because he was in prison half his life, and didn't know how to read. He wasn't, he was
dumb. He was dumb.
But he had this crazy mind control, like, over all these people who, a lot of them, some of them were going to college, some of them were very like good students. So it's not like it was over dumb people, He was doing it to people who, I mean, for regular purposes, you would consider smart, well-to-do in the society, and he was turning them, But
see,
how does this guy do that?
What I think it is that the CIA had already been doing this shit for fucking 2 decades. You know what I'm saying? Like, they had the information, they had the knowledge, they already knew how to do it. They just needed the right guy to put in place to, run the ultimate experiment. And that's kind of low key what I feel like this. It's kind of obvious. Like, this is what this is. Yeah. It's almost like the experiment that went a little too far. And I think that it was a success and a failure at the same time, because they succeeded in creating the thing that they wanted, but what they failed at was understanding the repercussions of it all, and how it's almost like too much to control when you have so many different things that you're experimenting on. Like, or people.
Yeah, it almost seems like they didn't give a shit about that, though. At the time,
that's true.
It wasn't like, it was whatever they felt was better for the state, for the government, for knowledge. It didn't care about.
And they didn't know that eventually there was going to be podcasts and audio books and the internet, and that we were going to be able to share information through everywhere, and that they were going to have all this shit. The director of the CIA, when the new one took over, I suck with names, but when the new one took over, the old one told him to shred all the documents from MK Ultra and all.
Sidney Gottlieb.
Yeah,
Sidney Gottlieb's the old one. I forget the new one's name too.
I'm so happy.
Yeah.
It's so good. Dude, it's so good that I have you to lean on for the names.
But dude, actually, that just because we brought him up right now, there's actually a book that just came out. I was gonna say we should read it before the podcast, but I just heard about it yesterday, and they say it's pretty good. It's called Poisoner in Chief, and it's Sidney Gottlieb and the CIA search for mind control. But it just came out, and it's all about Sidney Gottlieb. And dude, it just came out. I want to say like a couple months ago. Wow. So I stumbled upon it, and they said it's pretty good. And I was like, oh shit, like we should definitely read that.
Yeah, what the?
Sounds very interesting. Yeah, it just came out though.
That's tight. Yeah, for sure. Prisoner in Chief. Oh yeah, I see it here. Yeah, it came out in October 2018. Wow.
Oh, 2018?
19.
Okay, yeah. So not that long ago, like almost a year ago.
Is it a book?
I thought so. I didn't really look into it. I thought it was a book, right? Or is it like a big article?
No, it's a book. It's a book, but there's like YouTube videos, I think, of him reading it.
Oh, yeah, nice.
Yeah. Him talking about it. It's like a lecture, I think. But wow, that's cool. I'm gonna save that. That'd be definitely something we should check out for sure. That's
no, I thought it was interesting. And then also, I hope I hope people really read this book though after they listen to this, because I feel like some of it does sound crazy when we're saying like, oh yeah, the CIA did this and did that, but it is interesting though how Richard Smith was his parole officer, and that Charles Manson, for people who don't know, while he was on parole, was arrested almost like 6-7 times, and every single time they just let him go.
Yep.
And he was arrested for shit that he should have been arrested for. Like, I think theft. One was for like being with an underage girl.
Yep.
And it's like all this shit. And he was just constantly released, allowed to go wherever he wanted while he was on probation. Yep. What Richard Smith, his probation officer, actually took care of his son when
he's his godfather.
When they got arrested for what? Yeah. It's like, dude, it's like, so it seems like, he definitely had connections to these people, there's no way to deny it. I mean, maybe there's no proof that he actually was part of the studies, but he had connections to all these guys, and they all seemed to just let him do whatever the fuck he wanted,
It's so weird that they could never, he could never make a solid connection between Jolly West and Charles Manson. That they were both at the same Hyde-Ashbury clinic all the time, but he could never actually make that solid connection between him and Jolly West, which is wild to me. That's crazy.
And Jolly West is a trip, because earlier I think you're I forgot what you were saying, but I wrote this down because I was thinking about it in 1955, because that's what I think it's a year before the Jimmy Shaver thing happened that we're talking about, which we'll get into.
Yeah.
But in 1955, Jolly West that's when he sent that letter to, I think it was Sidney Gottlieb, saying that they had figured out how to implant false memories and take people's memories out. And he literally wrote that down and sent it to the head that, hey, we just figured it out. And then a year later, that thing happened with Jimmy Shaver. Yeah. And then, dude, it's just interesting to think if they really did figure it out in 1955, how much more complex has that gotten, where it spread to our media, where it spread to the TV, to everything that's because if they really did figure out how to do that in 1955, it's had to have come a long way since then. I know there's no way they just abandoned it, even though they say they did. There's no way they just abandoned something if it worked, especially if something like that worked. It's pretty crazy.
Dude,
it's just interesting to think.
I fucking feel you as far as like you've been talking about going down the rabbit hole and really shit like that, because it's so true, man. We've done quite a bit of psychedelics in our lives, and I feel like we are, I would say, somewhat of psychedelic connoisseurs or veterans. We have the mind, we know what it is and what it ain't. We know how to control ourselves, and we've been in situations of deep psychedelic states. and we've been around people who are also in deep psychedelic states. And you and I have always been what I would say are like leaders amongst our friends. And in those situations, it's I remembered saying this to you even, you know, years ago, like, damn, dude, when we're all tripped out, it's this weird like rhythm and this weird energy. And there's something more to that. That you know, there's something more to that psychedelic energy when in a group of people that can be used for amazing and powerful things, both good and bad. And I think that you know, we got a taste of it just being, you know, friends in groups of people on psychedelics and somewhat being like, you know, leaders of our friends in a sense, you know what I'm saying? And to know that, and then to read this book, and then to also think about that this was like 70 years ago or so that they started doing these experiments, and to think that all of a sudden in 1969 everything was just killed and deaded, and they never used this, you know, like you were saying, they never used this technology again. It seems stupid, and it feels like I was even talking about this on a stream the other day. Like, I feel like there absolutely has to be a section of the CIA or some sort of government that is in charge of keeping an eye on the psychedelic renaissance, or a psychedelic renaissance happening.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. There's people they're keeping tabs on. They're checking Google Trends and Google searches and trying to make sure that, oh, we'll let this little YouTuber talk about psychedelics every once in a while, but we're gonna make sure we suppress that as best we can. We're gonna let these random trip story Netflix documentaries come out, but we're gonna make sure, you know, but we're gonna keep an eye on everything. And if shit gets too wild, then we're gonna dead that shit real quick. And I think that that it's very, very ignorant to think that it was all over when they said it was, and especially considering, like you said, they figured it out.
Yeah, and that's, you know, I don't remember if this is in the book or if it's something I read after, but part of the speculation about all this too is that was one of the reasons they allowed Charles Manson to run rampant like that, because they wanted to put an end to the theory that, oh, these drugs are loving and they're bringing people together. And then Charles Manson was pretty much, a lot of people say that night when those killings happened was like the end of it all.
Yeah,
because everybody thought, oh my God, no, these drugs are turning people crazy, psychos. This is what's really happening. It's not love, but not behind the love, it's hate and death and this evil. Is what's going to come to all of you that keep doing it, you know. And it seems like they did like try to do that, you know. They used it to end an error because they were scared that people, because what they talk about, the free speech movement, they were scared about that, you know. So imagine how they felt when people were taking drugs and saying, oh, the government doesn't know what they're talking about, they're lying, you know. So it's like, let's put an end to that, you know.
That's the theory I was trying to articulate earlier that I couldn't get into my mind. It's not necessarily that it was helter-skelter and trying to start this race war, but it was more so the government seeing that these hippies and this psychedelic movement was fucking changing the world and changing the mind state. They could not, you know, they were losing control of these people's minds. Get it?
No, they were, because up until then it was very like a squeaky clean, like you were a part of society, and then you had this and it was like, oh nah, drop out of society, fuck that, you don't need to be part of the machine. It's like
it was the war on hippies is what this was. And they dropped a fucking Hiroshima bomb of Charles Manson and his family, and that's really what it was. I don't know if that's a good thing to say or a good metaphor or whatever, but
probably not, dude. Dude, you know what trips me out about Hiroshima is that if you talk to a lot of people, they'll still talk about it like, oh, well, we had to do it, like we won the war. But it's like motherfucking. But how many, like, you know, like who cares if we won the war? What about all the kids and like families?
How long ago was that?
What is that?
Like
World War II, at the end of World War II. So yeah, I don't know exactly what year they dropped the bomb, but in the 40s,
right?
Say.
That's it's fucking less than 80 years ago, or around 80 years ago that happened.
Yeah, dude. And it's like, dude, some of the common arguments too are like, well, they were killing us too. It's like, yeah, but like we literally dropped a nuke and like an atomic bomb on a whole city that'll never ever be the same again. You know.
Damn. That's another thing I really want to get into, but a lot about history is like, I don't really know that much, man. Like the other day, you guys explained World War II to me and the fact that Japan and Hitler were homies, and I was like, wait, what? I had no idea. I had no fucking idea. Like, how dumb am I to not even know that? Like, I really need to do a lot.
I'm not gonna lie, dude. I I was never big on history when I was younger. You know, it's all like been since I've been older that I've learned this shit. I didn't know this shit.
I had one good history teacher, and he made it super, super interesting. And then
history is pretty interesting. Now that I'm older, I'm like, fuck, dude, why didn't I like it when I was younger? You know,
you learn so much. Like it's a trip to know that you learn so much about yourself and life just by reading stories of history. It's fucking nuts.
Yeah.
All right, let me get back into this.
Yeah.
O'Neill's major foil throughout chaos is Bugliosi, who further canonized his own trial arguments in the 1974 book Helter Skelter. The story Bugliosi never had much use for those with dissenting theories. They are as kooky as a $3 bill in their beliefs and paranoia, he wrote in Reclaiming History, his 1,600-page attack on the Warren Commission critics. To Bugliosi, conspiracy-minded authors were the worst of them all. The majority of them knowingly mislead their readers by lies, omissions, and deliberately distorting the official record. That is a quote by Vince Bugliosi, who legitimately lied, who misled his readers with lies, omissions, and deliberately distorting the official record. He legitimately did that. There's facts and documents that prove it, and he has a quote here. Talking shit about people like that. That's so funny. That Bugliosi is one of the most interesting characters in the book because he's like in the middle of it all. He's, if anything, 100%. If this information came out, even what's in the book right now, if it came out a few years after the trial or during the trial, Bugliosi would have went to jail. If people,
dude, and they would have done a retrial for all of the family members and everything. I mean, that's not to say that they didn't do it, but but why they were put away isn't what actually happened. You know, the official narrative was just fucked with, and
they changed.
It's crazy how they took the one girl's lawyer away and put a lawyer that used to work for the prosecution, and like she didn't have any say in it. And I was like, dude, like they were just fucking around. I mean, they were bad people, I guess, for what they did.
Oh, of course.
Not, I guess they were bad people. But yeah, but it's crazy though. You know, like if you're really going by the court of law, like what the other side was doing was unethical too. You know, like doing anything. You know, and it's crazy, man.
It is. It's nuts.
It's almost it's like every part of the summary you read, we could just talk for
I know. It's crazy. Of course, Manson was convicted on conspiracy charges with a supposed motive that couldn't be much kookier. And Bugliosi's telling the engine that drove the murders was a plot to ignite a race war, after which Manson would emerge from a bunker and control the black population. I almost feel like I wouldn't be surprised if Charles Manson truly believed that. Like if he was not as in control of everything as people are, as it may seem, or after reading the book it may seem. I mean, I don't know. As I once thought, I guess I would say some people consider Charles Manson to be this powerful leader and this, like, you know, and of course he was, but I think he also had daddy, and you know his daddy was the CIA, and without daddy he would not have been anything. You know what I'm saying?
No, I get what you're saying. Like he wasn't. I don't know. Somehow he figured out how to have control over these girls, whether it was CIA or him. But either way, at the end of the day, he wasn't a smart guy, you know? Like he was crazy, you know? And he was a super racist, you know? So he probably did believe all that shit. But still, there's other things going on that, you know, obviously they wanted to cover up for because they fucking meddled in things that, you know.
Remember when he sucked a dick to just prove it? He proved it to his face.
I know. That's what sounded Frankie about. I was like, dude, it's pretty crazy. I was like, because that's what they said. He would tell his followers, like, whatever they were like uncomfortable with sexually, he would give them drugs and then make them do it in front of everybody. And I was like, dude, what the fuck? Like
that seems like a direct, like that seems like a direct idea given from daddy, the CIA daddy, to him. Like, hey, whatever they're afraid to do sexually, you're going to fuck them up and then you're going to make them do it because that's going to break them in their mind.
And think about if we were talking about that, about Operation Midnight Climax.
Oh, my God. Tell that.
So Operation Midnight Climax was in what? Like in 1955 to 1965, damn, 10 years. But it was headed by George.
They were doing that for 10 years. That's crazy. Oh my God. Holy shit. Dude.
Yeah. So it was headed by George White, and basically what they did, it was it the CIA, I believe? Yeah, CIA, right? They had prostitutes lure. It was in San Francisco. They had one of the it was like a crash pad, they would call it. Yeah. And it had a two-way mirror so you could see from one side, but obviously one side you can't. And on the other side of the two-way mirror was George White, who actually had a martini machine and had a bathroom in there. And he would just chill in there with martinis, drinking, and watch what would happen on the other side of the window. And basically prostitutes would lure Johns in there, you know, and different men. And then they would give them drugs like LSD. They did other shit too, like aerosols, different types of drugs. And then, they would try to get information out of them. And what I know when I was reading about it, what they found was that most of the time the information was after sex, because like that was when they were more likely to get information than before, because they were saying before most of the men could only think about the sex, and like, you know, there were the drugs and shit that it was more like useful after. But either way, it doesn't really seem like they found any evidence that would suggest that it was useful. It was very useful at all, you know? But dude, George White is the one who said, I wrote down the quote because I saw it on another website, but I remember they say this in the book. And the dude, George White, is quoted as saying this. He, I think it was written, it's a written document, but he told Sidney Gottlieb, I toiled wholeheartedly in the vineyards because it was fun. Where else could a red-blooded American boy lie, kill, cheat, steal, rape, and pillage with the sanction and blessing of the All Highest? Wow. And dude, this is the CIA guy who was doing experiments and watching people have sex on drugs. Wow. And like he said this, you know, so like, you know, it's crazy. Like, because it was like, I was telling Frankie that too. I was like, imagine like, that's probably why they were doing this crazy shit. Like being the CIA then, even probably now, it's like, you just get a pass to do whatever the fuck you want. And you could say it's in the name of your state. Oh yeah, you know, like it's crazy. You know? Says, you know, I'm like, what the hell? Like, who were they raping? You know, they don't talk about that, but he said that, so I bet you they did shit like that.
I'm sure there was. It's so crazy to think about the different the hundreds, probably if not thousands of people who were mind fucked and actually fucked, and it led to believe that they were fucking crazy, and probably still to this day think that they were crazy if they're even alive anymore. And it's just and not even just that, but the echoes of all these hundreds or thousands of people who went crazy and had these horrible situations because of the CIA, like the echoes of that and what that means for the society, for society going forward. You know what I'm saying? That could be a direct contributor to, you know, a lot of different mental health and things like that. Like you never really know. But I do believe that even now, that Manchurian Candidate type of PSYOP programs or whatever projects are actually happening. I actually do believe that. Recently, what's her name, Ghislaine Maxwell, the person or the, I don't know who it was. It a lawyer or a judge? It was a judge. It was the judge who was in charge of the case that was following the money for Jeffrey Epstein. I believe it was like it was the judge who
recently.
It just happened recently.
Yeah, and they killed her son.
They killed her son and her husband.
And then he ended up killing him. Well, killing himself.
An hour drive away. Yeah. So it's like, dude, that right there is another. It just happened. It just happened.
Did you know? I started reading about that, and actually, not even just that judge. I want to say it was like a month or two before. One of the dudes who handled a lot of the finance for Jeffrey Epstein also ended up, quote unquote, killing himself as well, or he ended up dying some weird way. But it's like he handled a lot of his money or some shit like that. But either way, I was like, dude, it's pretty crazy. Like, I'm the only reason I feel like they haven't killed Ghislaine or however you say her name yet is because there's so much attention. But dude, something's gonna happen.
Oh yeah,
there's no way they're gonna take her to fucking court.
No,
if they do, I'd be super surprised. You know,
I'm so curious.
I think she had corona though.
No, that was a joke. That was a bullshit.
Oh, that was a joke? Oh, okay.
That was a troll.
I remember when I was like, oh shit. I was like, there it is. You know?
No, she what was I gonna say? She fuck, what was it? I forgot what I was gonna say. But yeah, that's gonna be super interesting. But I feel like all the information, whatever information comes out of that situation, is gonna come out in October, right before November or during November, which is the election. I think. And not even just that, just to kind of go off on a little bit off topic, but I listened to this podcast with this guy, Peter Schiff. Very, very, very intelligent guy. He knows the economy super well. He moved to Costa Rica because there's no income tax. He's one of those type of really intelligent, money hungry fucks, right? But he's super smart, and I really like the podcast. But he talked about how, because he actually predicted the 2008 Wall Street financial crisis, right? When everything got all fucked up because of the housing bullshit they were doing. He predicted it for a couple of years. He was trying to tell people, hey, the fucking stock market's about to crash, and nobody believed him. And then it did, and he was right, and he wrote a book about it and everything. He is now talking that it's gonna be worse. He's saying that the crisis that is coming because of the different, because of Corona and because of, just the country in general, because of the stimulus checks and unemployment type shit, that the only way that they're able to pay all this money is by printing it through the Federal Reserve. And obviously by printing money, you lose the value of money, and it's fucking everything up. It's literally going to get to a point where more than likely the dollar in our country is going to mean nothing. And we're going to be in like this, a whole new depression.
Yeah. I heard about that.
Soon.
I also heard they said this December would be the saddest winter that we've all faced in a long time.
Oh,
I was like, that sounds terrible,
and
I was like,
some Game of Thrones shit, bro. Holy shit, winter is coming. Ah! Oh
that's
my
what I heard,
God,
so.
That's so scary, bro. Holy shit.
I mean, we'll see. I hope not,
Damn, he said that what he's really worried about is it getting to a point where we are fighting over food. That's what he said.
That'd be crazy.
Bruh, I'm about to, that's so wild. That out of every podcast I've listened to, there's shit with these fucking coronavirus experts and shit like that. And there's been other things that's really scared me. Hearing him say that was like, oh, this is something I don't even understand. We can't control. I don't know. All right, let's get back on topic. My fault.
Yeah.
Well, the official narrative of JFK's death is that it was brought about by a lone assassin. For the Tate LaBianca murders, it's that a team of assassins were ordered by a lone orchestrator. The question then is not who committed the crime, but why. Chaos doesn't contest the charges against the Manson family members, and O'Neill is deliberate in his investigations. Early on, he skeptically adds names to his whiteboard. One more in the jumble of cops and Hollywood has-beens, witnesses reliable and unreliable, with fading memories and ulterior motives. Although the tendrils of the Manson story reach into countless sensational realms, Hollywood, rock and roll, drugs, cults, etc., some of the wildest possibilities are dispensed with efficiently. O'Neill tracks down principles of a supposedly involved MDA distribution ring, senses dead ends, and moves on. Absent entirely are the connections that Ed Sanders. All right, this summary is kind of falling off, but it's just whack.
Yeah,
it's kind of fun. I do want to talk about Reeve Whitson and kind of get more into we've already talked about Bugliosi and them fucking up the trial and how that is actual fact. But Reeve Whitson and these CIA connections are kind of, what gets more, I guess, into speculation, because it's not necessarily like all facts, and things that can be proven, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think it's absolute that Reeve Whitson worked for the CIA, that he was involved and really, really close with Charles Manson for what I think is what was a long time, right? And everybody, he was kind of open about it, from what I remember reading about him, about working for the CIA, right?
Yeah, I think towards the end of his life, he was like more open about it. But yeah, it seems like everybody who knew him said that he worked for it.
Even the people he knew,
and then his family
California.
too. Yeah, yeah, his family too. But yeah, he was the one they said that went back to the house possibly and rearranged the bodies and all this shit. I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember too much about Reeve because it's more towards the beginning, Yeah, and I didn't read, honestly. Besides in that book, I didn't really read much about him when I was looking up other shit. Like Jolly West's name pops up a lot, but I didn't see his name very much.
Reeve Whitson, I really liked how he talked about him, because how he described him just was so cool. It might just be really good writing. It sounded
like a James Bond.
Dude. Like he was people knew him, but he never really showed any sort of personality traits. He was just
and he was always in the background, but he was always there.
And he always called from payphones and shit like that. I think that was super interesting. But as far as like, I don't know. I feel like there's obviously a bunch of information that we don't know about it. I think it's It's not 100%. Is it? Is it 100% that the CIA used LSD and mind control with Charles Manson to kill Sharon? Is that a fact? Would we say that's a fact? Like, is it? But it's like 90%, right?
I mean, yeah.
What did you say? What do you think?
No, it's definitely a very strong possibility. You know, like I feel like it's very, it's very strong. I mean, I might as well just bring it up now since we're talking about it, because it's not really with the other cases. But Whitey Bulger, who I was talking about earlier, he's the dude from those two movies. You should definitely see them. They're both really good movies. They don't ever bring this up. I guess it's something that just came out like 2 years ago. From letters that he wrote from prison in 19. Let me just make sure I got these dates right. In fucking, where is it? In I want to say it was 1957, around there, maybe a little bit before. Because he actually didn't go back. He was in prison for a while. I forget what for. He didn't go back to prison until way later. But while he was in prison the first time was during all that MK Ultra stuff. They actually had an experiment at the prison that he was at. What prison was it? I fucking can't even find it. But the prison he was, it was at Alcatraz. They had an MK Ultra program there, and it was headed by this guy Carl Pfeiffer, who was from this university. But it was an actual MK Ultra program that they've proven. And what they did was they told the prisoners who were involved that, hey, if you do this, you'll I think it was for every month you did the study, you got like 3 free days, and then over of like good time or something, and so over and reduce sentences for the people who would join. And they were told that it was medical research for a cure for schizophrenia. And then Whitey Bulger, though, who later went on to kill a shitload of people. And if you see the movies, both movies depict him as like this crazy, unhinged, The Departed, and Jack Nicholson plays him. But that one's like later life. But Black Mass is with Johnny Depp, and he plays him when he like gets out of prison and is really like into that period of his life where he's doing crazy shit. And so they always depict him as a bit of a psycho. But it wasn't until later that this came out that he said that they would give them massive amounts of LSD, and then they would all be in this room. And he said guys would be freaking out in the corner, hiding under tables, crying. And he said later in his life that he always had nightmares. He never slept more than a few hours at a time, always slept with the lights on. And he would have crazy hallucinations, even up until like his death. He would say that he still would suffer from that. Wow. And it's interesting, though, that he went on and did this killing spree. And also in the movies, they talk about this. There's an FBI agent, John Morris, who was his connect in the FBI. And for the longest time, Whitey Bulger was able to get away with what he was doing. And they would let him off the hook because he was technically, he would say he was an FBI informant. And but it's weird, though, because the FBI protected him for the longest time until later. Obviously, he got arrested and he got killed in prison when he was like 80. I think like last year or 2 years ago. Oh, wow. But it's crazy that this same guy who went on to kill a bunch of people and was being protected by the government was confirmed a member of the MK Ultra, like a participant who said that he said that he regretted it, that it was one of the worst times of his life because of the massive amounts they were giving them, you know. And then you're in prison. It's probably a fucking terrible, but dude, it's crazy though, you know. That's why it makes me think, because around this time in the 50s, this was also when Charles Manson was in and out of prisons, and a lot of the MK Ultra experiments did take place with prisoners, especially during, I want to say, the Artichoke, when it was like Artichoke before. A lot of them took place in prisons and shit. So it's not too far off to think that Charles Manson, while he was in prison, was having shit done to him, you know. I know people have tried to prove, though, that he was at some of these hospitals, but there's some of these prisons, because he was at some of the same prisons that they did the experiments, but nobody's really proven that he's been there at the same time as like Jolly West or anything. But there's a lot of speculation that he was probably at one of these prison sites, you know, that had experiments done, you know, before he got out. And that's why when he got out, he was already on that trajectory, you know. Because before that, he sounded like a petty thief, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Then all of a sudden he went into mind control with all these people, you know? But
that's what they said. He was in Haight-Ashbury for like 2 months and just became a totally different person in a couple of months.
Yeah, you know? And it's just crazy, though, because they were doing this shit in prison, you know? And if they did this to Whitey Bulger, and I'm not saying that made him kill people, because he was obviously in prison before, but it sounds like it probably made him a lot more paranoid and violent, you know? And then he was allowed to just be run free, you know?
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
That's fucking wild, dude. Holy shit. And it's like, it's so obvious like that, you know, we're hearing that story and then, you know, obviously reading this book, it's so obvious that they absolutely were doing some crazy shit using psychedelics.
Fuck yeah.
And it's like, I don't know. It's so wild that there's this whole other life, this whole other universe and field of information that we just don't fucking know, man. It's so crazy that there's so much information we just don't know because some people are withholding that information for whatever reasons from the other people. And if we imagine just having all that information, I don't know. Imagine having decades of experiments on any subject. You're eventually going to get really fucking good. It is 2020 now. And
well, dude, earlier, like you said that like they still have to be doing them, like for sure, because if you even look at the MK Ultra experiments, dude, in 1947 is when they did that the Nuremberg law or Nuremberg, I forget what it's called, Nuremberg Code, but that was right after World War II. They wrote it because of all the experiments the Nazis were doing in the war camps. They were doing experiments on people, obviously, and so they put in this code in place that was for everybody that, okay, you need signed consent, you need participant consent, you know, they need to know what they're getting into before you can do the experiments. That was in 1947, yet MK Ultra and everything came after that. Yeah. So, you know, they blatantly just disregarded those rules then. They didn't give a fuck. So it's like, why do people, that's why it's like you said, like, how can you believe that when they were told again in 72, 73, they had to stop, that they just stopped, you know? Yep. They even say that a lot of people in the CIA didn't even know it was going on. It was a need to know basis. So it's like, there's no fucking way they stopped, dude. When the Nuremberg Code came out, they didn't stop. That was like right around when they started. So it's like, they obviously didn't give a shit then when because literally, I think it's like I don't know what the name is, a humanitarian crime or something like that when you do experiments on people, you know, without them knowing, it's like unwitting
crimes against humanity.
It's like, and it's like we were doing that right after that code was signed, you know, and we were immediately doing it, even though we put that in place because the Nazis were doing it, and we're like, oh, that's unethical. But then we were doing it right after that, so it's like there's no way we fucking stopped, you know. They're doing, I mean, maybe they're not doing the same shit, but they're still doing shit, you know.
So crazy, dude.
It's crazy, dude.
So
dude, it's. I wonder how many times we say that in this
episode. It's so funny. That's what I kept thinking. I'm like, this podcast is going to be the whole podcast, every episode is
just called it So Crazy.
The whole podcast is just going to be like, that shit was tight.
So crazy.
That shit was so crazy.
No. Oh, dude, I wanted to bring that up to you because I know you did a video on it. Isn't it? I started tripping out when they started talking about Tusco. I was like, Tusco. Yeah, right when I started reading it, I was like, "Wait, where have I heard this before?" And then I was like, "Oh shit, Mikey did a whole video on it."
Yeah,
and it's crazy that was Jolly West who did that. You know,
I'm connected to it all, bro.
Dude, I know. I was like, "Oh shit," and Mikey was on this way long before Tom O'Neill.
It's funny because Joe Rogan had some professor on his podcast, and he was talking about Tusco. And the guest he had said, yeah, just look it up. It just search the elephant who died on LSD. And after that episode came out, I had a bunch of people coming to my video saying that they came from Joe Rogan's podcast, and it was tripping me out. I was at work. I got the text, or I kept getting all these notifications. Hear from Joe Rogan. Hear from Joe Rogan. I was tripping out. I thought they had watched my video on his show. If they had done that, it'd have been over. I'd be on a fucking blimp right now. We have my dick.
Yeah.
It was wild. It was wild on a blimp. Yeah, that's what I would do if I had money.
That's a line right there. On a blimp, getting my dick sucked.
That's a bar. But yeah, let's talk about Jolly. I think Jolly is one of the most interesting people because not only I think he also did the experiments, in the Haight-Ashbury clinics. But he also did the Tusco thing, which is what I also wanted to kind of bring up, but we just did. But I'm pretty sure there's also studies he did where he was trying to communicate with dolphins. Is that him?
Oh no,
that's someone else.
Shit, John. I want to say it's like John C. Lilly or
yeah,
like
that's
that.
who it is. Lilly. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm getting mixed up. Yeah. Okay.
He's the one. Well, he's the one who discovered that dolphins, because he was giving LSD to dolphins, and he's the one who actually discovered that dolphins were actually do communicate with each other, and that dolphins are super intelligent, and so he actually did discover things out of that.
No, he did. No, he's a super smart guy. Yeah.
He's also I could be wrong, but I want to say he's one of the people who started like the first like deprivation tanks or created them. Yeah, he is. Right?
I did a documentary on the history of sensory deprivation tanks. So all of it was about him and that. Yeah, so which was super interesting. Okay, but I got him mixed up with Jolly. But no, Jolly's super interesting too. He just because his name's Jolly.
Yeah, no, he's and dude, even if you look at pictures at him, he looks a little he looks like somebody you wouldn't want to deal with. Like he'd be an asshole, He looks like somebody I wouldn't want to see while I was on acid, Like if I was on acid, I'd be like, I don't want to be around this guy.
Oh my god. Have you ever seen The Troll in Central Park? That cartoon? That old cartoon?
I don't know.
It's super old, but yeah, he looks just like him. He looks just like him. Oh my god,
dude, he was a fucking.
He looks pretty young.
Probably was an asshole.
He looks like a dick, but he looked kind of like good looking when he was younger. There's a picture of him in the lab coat when he's young. Got a nice little haircut.
Oh dang, looking fresh.
Looking fresh,
dude. He's well, he did a lot of crazy shit, but yeah, it's hard to find. It's crazy that he was at UCLA though, and like these crazy institutions. And that's crazy. When I was looking up that's crazy. I fucking gotta stop saying that. When I was looking up the experiments and stuff like that, it's so weird that, not weird, I guess it makes sense that all of them pretty much took place in the hospitals that we now go to today, the colleges that are super prestigious today, Harvard, MIT, like I said, UCLA, these super prestigious colleges, hospitals. Alto. And like all this crazy shit was going on there, and these are still the institutions that we go to today. So I wonder if they still do things at some of these institutions, I know they would deny it, but
do you think they have a device like on Men in Black that can just erase your memory? They have to have that now. They have to have it.
Maybe. I don't know.
How would you know?
Dude, I bet you though, like imagine though, like what because Jolly West. Oh, that's what we should talk about. That was super interesting, which I think you said too. I don't really know much about the JFK assassination, but when they got into the fact that so Jack Ruby killed Lee Harvey Oswald, who Lee Harvey Oswald killed JFK, and then Jack Ruby though before, for people who don't know, which I didn't know this till I read it, before he went to trial. He had to have a psychological evaluation. And before this evaluation, everybody said he was perfectly sane and ready to stand trial. The person they brought in to give his psychological evaluation before he actually went to trial was Jolly West. And Jolly West sat with him for 48 hours, 2 whole days, and only them two. And at the end of this, he said that he had a severe psychotic mental breakdown and would never be the same and would never overcome it. And at one point he was under the table and hiding and saying all this crazy shit.
They were burning Jewish children.
Yeah, they were burning Jewish. Exactly. Yeah. And it's crazy too, because one of the things Jolly West and the MK Ultra program was trying to see too was if they could induce insanity in just a normal person, And it's so strange that the one guy that silenced the person who killed John F. Kennedy when there was all these conspiracies going around ended up going psychotic, and none other than Jolly West was his doctor. It's like that's like proof right there. Something obviously happened with that, like you said, that totally made me want to go and start researching the JFK thing. So I never really paid it much mind, but just to see that tells me that something definitely happened, that they were trying to cover up for. And they were saying that it was like part of like because Jack Ruby later ended up being part of an like Castro, the Fidel Castro. He was like sending weapons over there or something
Okay.
to help the U.S. fight communism from inside Cuba. And it's crazy though that in the beginning they said he had no political ties whatsoever, but he was part of that and also part of this whole JFK assassination. And at the same time, they said the CIA was planning a similar assassination of Fidel in Cuba around the same time that JFK died. So it's like, man, it gets deep, you know.
There's
too deep for me.
Is it Operation Paperclip or some shit? It's some sort of actual conspiracy where they were gonna take down a jet. Our government was gonna take down a jet and blame it, I believe, on the Cubans during the same time. I could be totally wrong, just to start a war, but it was all
Operation Paperclip. Yeah. I didn't look into it, but there is one. I wonder if that's probably
I think that's what it is. It was one of the only, or was it Red Sparrow or some shit like that? Where there was a literal conspiracy that our government was going to take down a jet line, I believe, or something like that, and they were going to blame it, I believe, on Cuba to start a war. It's all fact. It was all written down. It was an actual report that came out, and it's crazy that's one of the only conspiracies that have actually been proven to be a fact that is actually true. But
remember they talk about it in Chaos too. Remember he briefly talks about Vietnam. I forgot what the program was, but they were sending soldiers in, or like secret soldiers, to massacre whole villages of women and children and people who didn't have anything to do with the war. And then their goal was to make it look like the Vietnamese were doing it to themselves to turn the people against them. Like, oh, look, they're killing each other. They're killing their own people. But it was actually U.S. soldiers going in. So it's like, fuck, dude. Like, that's why when anybody says like about 9/11 shit, it's like, well, dude, like if they were willing to kill all these people back in the day, what makes you think it'd be any different now? You know, like it hasn't changed. You know, it's all like a power thing, and to see it. How far? I don't know. I don't think it was supposed to. I think
if 9/11 was some sort of like a this type of a project, I think that it kind of blew. It was not what they expected. I don't think that they expected for the buildings to fall and like over 3,000 people to die. I think that it blown a little out of bigger than what they wanted, because that much of I think you can probably start a war with just 100 people dying, and you know what I'm saying, and it won't be you know, and it won't be such as much of something that made such an impact as over 3,000 people dying, like 9/11. You know what I'm saying? Like, but you can still get the same thing, the outcome that you want, but with less eyes and less bullshit that you have to deal with. But either way, who the fuck knows? That's a nut. We should get on another podcast just about 9/11. I could see you fucking write it on your walls and have like sticky notes and like strings.
Yeah, the next time you see me, it's
all right. I do want to. So I know you have stories about different experiments that you wrote, right?
Before we do that, did you want to do the Jimmy Shaver? We didn't. Really watch that.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna play that, and then after that, you tell me your stories. Okay. So basically, for those listening, this is Tom O'Neill when he was on the Joe Rogan Experience on April 16th, and he talked about his book. It's an amazing podcast. It's almost 3 hours long. And obviously, Tom does a much better job of explaining things and in a much more cohesive way. On top of recommending the book, I'd recommend listening to the podcast. And then I'd also recommend doing your own research, joining the cause, and fighting the CIA with us. But this is the audio of him telling a story about a guy named Jimmy Shaver, who who came into direct contact with Jolly West, who was working at a government agency, and who is believed to have been a part of these mind control projects, and had a disgusting and horrible story and experience come out of it. So this is Tom O'Neill on the podcast telling the story of Jimmy Shaver.
I have all these letters between him and the guy who was running the program, describing how they're going to do it, hide it from his colleagues. When he started at Lackland Air Force Base. He was running the psychiatry department at the hospital there in 1952. When he was there running that hospital, that's when he started his experiments on prisoners, human subjects, and one letter to Gottlieb, he says, eventually we have to take these experiments out into the field.
Oh, Jesus.
Exactly.
What does that mean?
Well, if you haven't gotten through a chapter 11 yet, you haven't gotten to the Jimmy Shaver case.
No, I haven't.
A year after, maybe Jamie did. A year after West contracted with the CIA to do these experiments, July 4th, 1954, a 3-year-old girl went missing from the parking lot of a bar at about 11 or 12 at night. Now, her parents, it was a heat wave. They couldn't sleep. They went to the bar. They brought their 2 kids. They let them play in the parking lot at midnight. The little girl disappeared. They organized a search party. About 3 or 4 hours later, they went to a gravel pit, and two airmen had called, or 2 itinerant guys had called the local sheriff and said, there's a guy here that wandered out of the brush with scratches and blood, no shirt, and he doesn't know how he got here or who he is. The police came. His name was Jimmy Shaver. He was an airman. They did a search, and they found the little girl's body not too far away, and she had been raped and murdered by this guy who had no memory of doing it. The guy had no history of violence. He had a couple kids, and he was a flight instructor at the school. He'd been in the military for a number of years. I think he was in his early 30s. Well, guess who became his psychiatrist in preparation for the trial? Jolly West, who inserted himself into the case and then extracted his memory from him using sodium pentothal, where he admitted to the murder. Now, in the context of what we found out West was doing and what his objectives were, at that same time, it raises huge questions about this was an experiment gone wrong, that he was part of one of these experiments at Lackland Air Force Base where he was signed up. During the trial, it came out that he had treatment for severe migraines, experimental treatment at Lackland. That's another, a smaller subchapter in the book. But
does it describe what kind of experimental treatment he received?
No, because nobody. I have all the testimony. There was actually a trial, a retrial, and sentencing. Right. And every time it came up, it was really frustrating because he never testified.
All right, yeah.
So
we'll leave it there. That story, I remember when I was listening to the book at work, and when he told that story in the book, because that's in the book, and he goes into a lot more detail than he just did there. But when he did, I haven't felt like that since like the Red Wedding, Game of Thrones shit. Like hearing that story, like I was in the aisles. Story. I was in the aisles at work, and I was like, no fucking way. Like I had to stop walking, and I just stood there like, what the fuck? And it tripped me out.
Yeah, dude.
He's
a good writer.
Same thing as Jack Ruby. Same thing as Jack Ruby, right? Mm-hmm. He fucking Jolly West goes in to interview him, and all of a sudden this guy confesses, and but he doesn't remember ever besides the time he talks to Jolly West.
Yeah,
so crazy, and it's just crazy. Like he said too. I think he said in this clip, how I think we talked about earlier too. How Jolly West a year before this said, "Hey, we figured out how to do it," and then it happened with this guy, and he happened to be part. He had those headaches, so he happened to be a part of an experimental procedure at this, was it an air base or wherever he was located, and it's crazy, man. There's just so much evidence, and
that
maybe it'll never be fully proven, but I feel like it's enough for me to believe that
for sure.
Yeah, they did, especially this dude, Jolly West. Like it's so wild how he did so much, and I feel like looking at his smile, you can just tell he just looks like he did,
I feel you for sure. It's
but that Jimmy Shaver story is crazy bad.
Yeah, to me, that story seems like an experiment gone wrong. You know what I'm saying?
Well, dude, and it makes sense. I mean, what they wanted to make people do things that would go against their moral code, and like. That's pretty going against the code to rape a little girl and murder her and shit, like, so it's, and then totally and completely forget about it and never remember until you're given another drug. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you remember, and then you never admit it again. And then you get killed. It was only a couple years later they executed him.
That's crazy.
So yeah, man. Poor Jimmy Shaver,
Poor Jimmy Shaver.
If they really put it into him, I mean, if he did it on his own, fuck him. But if they brainwashed him,
fuck him either way.
Fuck him either way. Yeah, fuck him either way. Fuck him either way for sure. But if he was really brainwashed and didn't know what the fuck he was doing, that's fuck. I feel like that's fucked up, you know. But yeah,
super fucked up.
Fuck him. Yeah, fuck Jimmy either way.
Yeah.
You're right.
Shit. But yeah, I feel like this. Okay, he talked about it in the podcast towards the end, I think too. The Netflix adaptation that went awry, like that he said he didn't like what they were going for, so he sold it to Amazon or something like that. But Amazon, they want to make a movie.
That'd be stupid.
Yeah, that'd be stupid. I think that if they made this, they could make this into like a 7-season long show, dude. Like or a documentary series. I'll be down with either one. But I feel like if they made something like if the Game of Thrones guys, or no, fuck those guys, or George, or whoever makes good TV shows, like the people who made that one show that you really liked that I watched too, the
Leftovers.
The Leftovers, yeah. If those guys who made that show,
shit, bro. Yeah.
If those guys made
Damon Lindelof, he's the dude who made Lost too, and he made Watchmen, the HBO Watchmen that just came out.
It's so funny. I've only heard about those 3 shows, but I know they're great, and I'd trust them with this story.
Yeah.
All the different characters, dude, the different people, and they're like, you can introduce Jolly West in 3rd season, you know, like.
Yeah, and if you did a movie, like you would leave out so much shit because there's so much, you know. Yeah.
We've done we've been recording for an hour and a half, and it feels like we've there's still so much we could have talked about.
It's only been an hour and a half.
Yeah,
it feels a lot longer. Yeah. Dude, there's so much in this book. You know, I hope it condenses down nice though. You know, I just hope there's not a lot of us stumbling and shit.
Yeah,
you know?
I feel you saying that shit was wild or whatever we were saying.
That shit was crazy. But I feel like we put in a lot of information. You know,
no, we did good. This is good. It's done well. I want to hear your stories.
You want me to get it? Yeah. All right. So, I know in this podcast we're gonna try to do this every episode, right? We're gonna try to do like the main thing, and then maybe something a little extra, maybe extra information about the book, the author, whatever. Unfortunately, for this book, it was really hard to find anything extra because Tom O'Neill. Again, I would really recommend it because he really does cover pretty much everything, you know?
Yeah.
So it was really hard to find extra on his actual topics. Like everything on Jolly West that is at least known right now is pretty much in this book. Everything, you know, most of the stuff on MK Ultra is pretty much in this book. Because a lot of the things, I actually found a lot of those MK Ultra things that he talks about, those documents, and it's crazy. They are like they're just pretty much redacted, so you can't really see what they do, or they just have prices. You know, they just like, oh, it's going to cost this much for the psychologist, this much for equipment, drugs, but it doesn't. You know, there's no specifics. You know, and so I started looking into other just experiment. It just started branching off, and I just started looking at other experiments. Not all of them are just government. Some of them are hospitals too. Here, hold on 1 second. My bad.
No, you're good. Yeah, for sure. I'm super interested because I know that there's probably some super creative shit that they did. Like, imagine you had all the acid you wanted, and you were an evil, fucking powerful person who could do whatever you wanted.
Some of the shit. Okay, I'm gonna start out with some of them. Some of them aren't even fucking like drug like things. All right, dude. So in 1930, I'll start with like the least I feel like severe, but I feel like this really just emphasizes how fucked up science has been with the help of the government, you know, because most of the science at schools and hospitals, it's all funded by the government, you know. So they did something, I don't know the exact name, but people refer to it as the monster study. It happened in 1939. The shit it's pretty fucked up. This one happened. It was through the University of Iowa. So they were the ones who conducted it. See, it's always a university. It's always a university that conducts it. It's so crazy.
That's why I go to college.
So crazy. And then this one, though, took place this place pops up in more studies, too. It's called the Soldiers and Sailors Orphans Home.
Wow.
It's so weird, though. If you look it up by itself, you won't really find any of this shit. You'll just find out about the institution and kind of positive things about it. But a lot of the studies the kids were taken from there and the studies were done there with the kids. And this one, so it took 22 students and 10 were already, it was a speech pathologist student. 10 already had a stutter. And then, so for the 10 that stuttered already, they took 5 and 5. The group A, they were told you don't stutter, your speech is fine, and they were always told that in every session they did. And then the other group who also had a stutter were told, yes, your speech is as bad as people say. and that they were told that. And all these kids were ranged from like 5 to like 9. So they're all super young, impressionable, you know? And it would be like multiple researchers doing this sometimes. And then they took another group that was normal, the other 12, and they split them up. And they didn't have a stutter before. And 6 of them were told, you have great speech, like good job. And the other 6 who didn't have a stutter were told, oh, you're developing a stutter. You should be careful. Some of them even say, don't ever speak unless you could do it right. They would say things like that, pretty much belittling these kids.
Yeah.
And then what they found was that the stutterers in the stuttering group, even though they were told their speech was fine, they didn't get any better. You know, They still had their problems. And the ones that were told they were bad stood pretty much stuttering. But in the healthy group, which was crazy, the group that they were told, you know, you shouldn't speak unless you could speak right, even though they were speaking right, those kids actually for a while I think they just sued a couple years ago, but they had a lot of, they said their speech actually didn't really decrease, but they had a lot of mental issues after. The kids would, as the sessions went on, the kids would refuse to speak, or they would be super careful, or they would like just get so nervous that they just couldn't talk. And they said it fucked with them for a long time, like with their personalities, because they were just scared to be public speakers or just talk to their friends because they thought, oh my God, I don't hear my speech getting bad, but they're telling me my speech is bad, you know? And it's pretty fucked up.
How old are the ages? How old are these kids?
So they range from, I want to say, I know the youngest was 5, and I think the oldest was 9. They might have went a little bit older. I mean, there's only 22 kids, but you know, I just wanted to start out with that one because it's not like, it's not like.
How long did it go? How long did they do these things?
This one was just a couple month study. I want to say it was like a 6-month study. It was like less than a year.
Damn, 6 months affected them for years.
Yeah, you know, so a lot of them ended up suing. But okay, so that was that one. The monster study, you know. Let me see what else we got. Yeah, I know. The name of it sounds crazy.
So it's kind of true to me that the kids who stuttered, nothing happened to them, no matter what was told to them.
Yeah. So I mean, it was obviously just. I mean, because that's what I was thinking about. Like, imagine being a normal kid and like not a normal kid. I keep saying that. I don't mean that way, but having normal speech and like me talking to you and you just keep telling me, oh wait, you're not speaking right. You don't sound right. You know, and especially as a kid. Especially if you can't tell, you're going to think, oh shit, like I'm not speaking right. Like maybe I shouldn't speak at all, you know? And that was one of the big things that they said kids just who were talkers in the beginning, all of a sudden didn't want to talk or super self-conscious, and it ended up affecting them for like a long time. Wow. But let's see, let's get into another one. I didn't mean to say that so enthusiastic.
It's not like
I'm excited. Let's get into another.
Sound like an old mixtape from 2005 or something.
Okay, dude, this one's didn't really harm anybody in the long run, apparently, but it's pretty fucked up. It was done at MIT, again, another prestigious college, and Quaker Oats. You know, Quaker Oats, always, you know, the brand Quaker Oats. Oh, okay. Yeah. So they were trying to test, what they said is they were trying to test to see how well the oats and the nutrients disperse throughout the body so they can make claims. You know how they make scientific claims like, oh, the oats are this good for your health, or they'll do this. So they were trying to see, and I guess the way that I've heard about them doing this before with other things where they put in a sort of like dye or radiation in certain things, and then you can see where they go in the body.
I've heard of that.
Yeah. So, but they did this without these kids' consent, and they took these kids from, where were they from? I forgot what school they were from, but they were all mentally disabled, which is
damn
fucked up. Wait, what? Give me 1 second. My bad. I have shit like written everywhere.
Oh, you're good. Cold-blooded ass people. Imagine being Jolly West and sitting there with a man losing his fucking mind for 2 days, and you just feeding him bullshit. Like, you have to be evil to do that, something like that.
Exactly, dude. And I could totally see how that happened, because like imagine if you were just given acid or just drugs like that are so disorienting for hours and hours on end and never being able to come down and not feeling safe and having somebody tell you things and accuse you of things,
And it's crazy. It's crazy because like, do you remember? I feel like I said, we have some good knowledge. Like we're pretty experienced when it comes to psychedelics. So like, I feel like it might be a little harder for somebody to do that to us, a little harder. But I remember when I first did psychedelics, my first time, man, I would have done. You don't know what to expect. You know what I'm saying? And I think that they got really good at identifying the traits in different people that makes them very susceptible to that type of shit. I think they were really good at finding those people by like personality tests and stuff like that. But yeah, my bad. Go ahead.
Yeah. No. You're good. You good? Shit. Totally forgot what I was doing. Oh yeah, okay. The radioactive milk, and it was called the Science Club, is what they called these kids that they recruited. They're all mentally disabled, and what they pretty much did was they gave them cereal, Quaker Oats, and the milk was radioactive milk. But they were not told. The parents weren't adequately informed, so they weren't really told what was going on, and it ended up apparently not affecting any of the kids. I mean, who's to say, because they were already mentally disabled, so it probably did affect them in some ways. But especially at this time, though, when was this? I think it was like it was in the 1940s. I don't know why I don't have the time written down, but so they had the radioactive milk, and then they said it didn't affect them though, because but the amount of radiation the kids were getting, they said ended up being like the amount of radiation it was like 30 chest x-rays or something. But it was kind of like a good amount, and it was in like 7 days, because it was like a 7-day, I want to say a 7-day experiment or something like that. And they were giving them that, like, for seven of their meals, it was with radioactive milk. I'd be
willing to bet that they got fucking cancer like very young ages and stuff like that. If you followed up on that, I bet that something happened.
I mean, it'd probably be hard to tell too, because I bet you, because they were mentally disabled at the time, they had shorter lifespans, because people just didn't take care of them, dude. I didn't even know until, because I work with the kids with autism, that it wasn't until I want to say the 80s, 90s, might even be in the 90s, that they started allowing. I think it was the 80s though, allowing these kids with special needs and mental disability to even attend the same schools as other kids. Yeah, before that, they were just not. It was kind of like out of sight, out of mind institutions or no school. It's pretty crazy. So a lot of these experiments took place though at these places too, where the people were mentally disabled. Let me see.
Yeah. Imagine that's what I think about too. Like all the homeless people, mentally disabled people who were out in the streets in the 50s and 60s that had no family. There's probably so many of them that were just forgotten forever. It's wild.
So, dude, it is wild. Okay, and this is another one that was done at the Soldiers and Sailors Home. That was the same one where they did the monster study. This one, the children were given vaccines for dysentery, but they were testing the vaccines on these kids, I should say. They weren't official vaccines yet. They were testing them. And a lot of the kids had severe reactions. So the vaccine was supposed to be given to military personnel, to prevent dysentery, to cure them of dysentery. But the kids had such severe reactions, they never actually used this vaccine on the military. But it's pretty fucked up if you think about it. They gave it to these kids, had them purely because they lived at an orphan's home. They obviously didn't have parents. They were probably just allowed to do whatever they wanted at that time. It was this study went on from 1941 to 1958. So who knows how many kids were actually affected. I'm sure. And then some kids were given a vaccine for influenza. And then 3 to 6 months after, they were exposed to influenza for up to 4 minutes. And a lot of the kids developed influenza and then, died. So it's pretty crazy, dude. Yeah, it's crazy. I don't even know what the name of that study is, but it was done at the Ohio Soldiers and Sailors Home. And the kids came from the Dixon Institution. Oh, no, the kids came from the Ohio Soldiers Sailors Home. They also came from the Dixon Institution for mentally ill in Illinois, and then the New Jersey State Colony for the Feeble-Minded. So it was orphans and kids with mental disabilities that they did these experiments on.
That's fucking crazy,
dude. It's crazy, dude. Yeah. And then what?
It's fucking evil. That's like some fucking Nazi shit,
dude. Exactly, dude. And a lot of these doctors that were like involved, like if you type in their name, this shit doesn't just pop up, you know. A lot of them did other things that they're more noted for, you know. But it's like, but they also did this shit, and that's, you know, it's crazy. It's crazy that people will never be held accountable, though, you know.
Yep.
For this,
exactly. And it was only like 60 years ago that they were doing this type of shit. Like less, yeah, dude, more than that, if that.
Yeah, dude. 1943 at Harvard University McLean Hospital, and the University of Cincinnati. They did. It's called actually therapeutic hypothermia now. That's what I was telling you I was reading about. But what it's actually used for is if you go into cardiac arrest, they cool your body down to like 93 degrees to reduce inflammation and brain swelling to try to keep your brain intact for when your heart starts again. So that's what it's actually used for. But at the time, they used it on 16 mentally disabled patients were put into refrigerated cabinets that were set at 30 degrees Fahrenheit, and they were forced to remain there for 120 hours.
Oh my God.
120 hours and 30 degrees. And 2 of them died of pneumonia, and a bunch of them had like crazy physical decay because they were so cold, and they were in there for 124 hours. Because now when they do the hypothermia, I think the max they do it for is 24 hours. And I think it's not even as cold of a temperature. And back then they put these fools in refrigerators. Dude, it's crazy. It's crazy,
shit.
Dude.
That is.
It's crazy.
And it's probably a bunch of different
shit,
things you could find about like different things.
Dude, all this shit, if you look it up, like you'll find like you could even find the actual studies where you can read about them, you know? I try to use only things that I could look up, and so if anybody looks it up, you could find this shit, you know? And then there's 2 more. This one's actually interesting because it actually has to do with Artichoke a little bit. Okay. And the beginning of MK Ultra. Her name was Dr. Loretta Bender. And she worked on kids who had autism, but at the time she called it autistic schizophrenia. And she would give them electric shock therapy, which obviously was very common with the mentally disabled, where, you know, you've heard about that, you know, where they shock them. Yeah. And then tranquilizers like Thorazine. But then later, around 1961, I want to say, they started. She started also giving them LSD, and to kids as young as 3, she would give LSD. And she believed that it would. Well, this is what she said, that it would benefit the children by providing them with psychedelic experiences that would mobilize their perceptual growth. You know, that maybe would expand their thinking because they had autism. I don't understand how that works. Because even on normal people, you know, not normal, but, you know, people who don't have that disorder, it's very disorienting, you know. It's not always like a beautiful perceptual, oh my God, I learned. But yeah, she was giving it, and it actually ended up being in 1961 when she was at Creedmoor. There's a lot of articles that say that the people that were actually funding those LSD studies were the same people that were funding MK Ultra. It was like those little offshoots, you know, how they would have institutes that weren't really real institutes, and they would fund. So that was being funded by that, which is pretty interesting. Wow. And then also, this too, actually, this was the offshoot of Artichoke. It was in 1951. I found this last. It's Point Saint Esprit is how you. I think that's how you say it, but it's where this happened. It's called Point Saint Esprit, and in 1951. There was 500 people. Literally, they had delirium, and people were experiencing insanity. People tried to drown themselves. This was all the town was called Point Saint Esprit. And on this one day, everybody just started having like crazy mental hallucinations, and people were being tied down to beds. People were just freaking out. And for a long time, they said that it was from the bakery that it was like ergot or whatever you make LSD. They said it had like gotten into the bread or something. Yeah. Some shit. Yeah. But later they just recently, actually, I think they found out it hasn't been fully proven yet. But there's a lot of evidence because of Frank Olson. You remember Frank Olson, the dude who jumped out the window? They talk about him in Chaos. He was CIA scientist, and they gave him acid without him knowing, and then he killed himself.
Oh yeah.
They talk about it. Yeah, so there's a lot of memos where they talk about Frank Olson and Point Esprit because they happened around a similar time, and they talk about those both those projects. So what they're saying now is what happened is that they were testing an aerosol that had LSD in it, and they sprayed it over the town. And then that's what caused it, because they said it was over 500 people. They were showing up at the hospital. So I think one person died. I think he killed himself. And because people didn't know what was happening, people just started freaking out. I even read an article. There's an article in the Telegraph about this guy from a couple years ago. He's like 80 now. And he talks about how he still wants to know for sure what happened, because he talks about how he was riding his bike and all of a sudden, like, he just didn't know what was happening and he fell, and he said that everybody was just, the whole town was just crazy. And I was like, dude, it's pretty wild. You should look it up. I was tripping out. It was the last thing I found him. Point, so Point, that's how you spell it, and then dash Saint, and then dash Esprit, which is Espirit. And yeah, it's it was pretty wild when I read that. I was like, dude. Wow. Yeah, they said it mass poisoning, but it's obviously something psychedelic, and it was right around that time of MK Ultra, and there's documents where the CIA is talking about Point Saint Esprit, so it's like obviously they had something to do with it.
This is in France.
Yeah, in France. Yeah, that's where it is.
This says there were 7 people who died.
Oh, 7 people. Okay, I could be wrong. I literally looked that one up like right before we got on because it was like last minute.
Ergot poisoning is the cause of the epidemic. Sounds like some bullshit though.
But now they're saying though there's articles.
Theory.
Yeah,
I see. Okay, yeah. In a 2009
but there are actual.
A terrible mistake. Journalist Hank Albarelli Jr. originated a conspiracy theory claiming that the Special Operations Division of the Central Intelligence Agency tested the use of LSD on the population Point Saint Esprit as part of its MK Naomi chemical behavior program in a field test dubbed Project Span. Wow. That's what they say happened with the Salem witch trials, is that ergot or rye or whatever is what made them all fucking kind of go crazy or be crazy or whatever.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Amazing.
Dude, I actually
that's crazy. That's a fucking movie right there. We should produce that documentary.
Point Saint Esprit.
Yeah. Have that old man tell his story in a very nicely lit room with shadows. I can see it now. Go ahead. Sorry.
We got to do it before he gets too old, man. Yeah, we got to do it soon.
I'm gonna Discord him.
Yeah, do it. So this would be the last one. I only say this last one because I've known about this, and then I found an offshoot of this. And this one I feel like is one of the worst ones. So have you heard of the Tuskegee syphilis experiment?
No.
Okay, so this happened from 1932 to 1972. So it's about 400 to 600. They were all African American, and they were all sharecroppers, so like farmers and shit. And most of them, they said, had never ever been to a doctor before because it was a very poor rural area. So never been to a doctor, none of that. And so they came. Who was it? Who did it? Dr. John Cutler was his name, who was the head scientist on this. But so what they offered them was free medical treatment. And the people they took, let's see, I have it down here. Where is it? Shit. God damn it. I want the exact numbers.
It's all good.
I want the numbers. Where are the numbers?
Take your time. We're good.
All right, cool. Yeah, give me a second. I fucking just. Oh, okay. Here we go. Okay, so 399 of the participants when it started out had syphilis. So that's why it's called the Tuskegee syphilis experiment. And what they were trying to do is they wanted to see the progression of syphilis in African Americans for some reason. They wanted to see the progression of it. So what they did was, 201 of them didn't have the disease, 399 did. And what they did to the 399 who did, so they were promised free medical care, and they were promised that they were going to try to find a treatment for their syphilis. That was the reason they were part of the study. They gave them placebos, though, only. They gave them only placebos, never gave them actual medicine. They were told they were being treated for bad blood, which was like a common theory at the time. Like you had bad blood, you were sick, so you'd get like things. But they were only getting placebos. And then this is the fucked up part. is that so this started in 1932. In 1947, the cure for syphilis came out, penicillin. Doctors never gave them penicillin ever, and this study went on until in 19. Let me see. In the 1960s, this dude Peter Bruxton. So this shit has already been going on for 30 years. In 1960s, this is already 13 years after the cure's out. They still hadn't given it to any of them.
It's
They
out.
didn't give them
It's
the
out
cure.
in what way? Like for people to buy, or like just like
well,
out amongst the
penicillin-
scientific
well,
community, or
No, it was being used to treat, because there's actually another experiment going on at the same time where they were using penicillin to treat it. So they knew it treated syphilis.
publicly.
So they could, publicly they knew it treated syphilis. But these sharecroppers where they lived, I don't think they had access to TV or mainstream, and then it probably wasn't mainstream then, like, oh, the cure. But the doctors kept this from them. And even though they were that's the fucked up, they were supposed to be providing them care. So technically when that came out, if they were part of the experiment, they should have gave it to them, to see. But they continued to give them placebos. This dude outed them in the 60s and to the Public Health Service. Public Health Service formed a board, investigated it, and decided that it was okay to keep going. Allowed it to keep running until night. And they were. This is what they said. They were going to allow it to run until all the participants were had died and autopsies were done. Yeah, so they were going to allow them all to die and to do autopsies on them to figure out exactly what had happened to the body. Even though there's a cure, there's no reason to do this anymore, And then in 1972 is the dude Peter Bruxton, actually went to the media because he's like, nah, it's fucked up, and went to the media and exposed it, and then it got shut down then. Wow. But so it went for 40 years where they let these fools just have syphilis and did not give them the cure. Wow. It's pretty crazy. And they were all obviously at that time, they were all fucking super racist too. So they probably didn't give a shit.
So these are all black people that they were doing this to.
All black people.
Wow.
Yes. That was actually the study. It was the Tuskegee syphilis experiment, or the progression of advanced syphilis in African Americans or something like that.
This sounds like something they were trying to study because they were considering each and every possibility to fucking, I don't know if exterminate the black race.
Dude, almost like dude.
Crack. It sounds like crack worked better than this, and then they were like, all right, let's just introduce crack then instead of this, because this didn't work out too well.
Yeah, they
I don't know.
They fuck with these people, And during the study though, 28 during the actual study, 28 had died, because I guess you could live with syphilis for a while, I'm guessing. So I don't know much about it. But 28 died from syphilis and during the study, and 100 died from related complications. And then 40 people's wives were infected, and then 19 children ended up being born with it too. But all because of the study, which is fucked up, like it's crazy though what they would do to these populations. And then what I found out, which I just found this out today, was at the same time there was the Guatemala syphilis experiment or something like that. It's actually run by the same guy, but it was done in Guatemala, and it was run by Dr. John Cutler as well. And so this was between 1946 and 48. So this was actually during the Tuskegee. So it was going on at the same time in Guatemala. And they took 700 men and women. They were prisoners, soldiers, and the mentally ill. They gave them syphilis to see if so they would give them penicillin first, and then they would give them syphilis after to see if the penicillin would prevent the syphilis. And then they were exposed to other STDs without their consent, and they just did all these experiments. But the most fucked up thing I found about that was in February 1948, this girl, she's only credited as Berta. She was February 1948. She was injected with syphilis. She wasn't treated until 3 months later. And at that time, she was already like having like, I think she got scabies, and she got other things from it that was like causing her to decay. And then on August 23rd that same year, the doctor put gonorrheal pus from another male subject into both of Berta's eyes, her urethra, and rectum, because they were testing STDs too, Yeah. And then she was reinfected with syphilis as well. And several days later, her eyes filled with pus. She was bleeding from her urethra, and then she died August 27th, 4 days after they gave her that. But this is so from February to August, she was in their control. So who knows like what else she went through till she died. But dude, and this is just one girl. I didn't even read the whole report. There's like whole reports on it too. Actually, Obama apologized for it in 2010, and Hillary Clinton, they issued apologies.
What was her name?
It had
Bertha?
Well, her name's Berta, but they apologized for the experiment in general. But if you look up, you'll find about her. Let me see. I actually was gonna do that. I was actually gonna tell you that too. A lot of this shit I looked up just because I was worried that I'm gonna sound stupid and not remember all the details, right? Actually, I have all the links. I was thinking about sending them to you, and maybe we could put them somehow in the podcast or like underneath. So if anybody wants to look up these studies, they can. So it doesn't. I just don't want to give people the impression, because I feel like for a first episode, this is pretty out there, and I just don't want people to get the impression that we're like just bullshitting, you know?
I mean, all this shit, it's called mind control. Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah, you know, and I just don't want it to come off like, oh, this is a conspiracy podcast. Yeah, these guys are just saying shit. But like, I'll send you all the links after we're off, just so. I feel like we should post them just so like anybody, if you want to look up any of these studies, look up more. Also, I would like to send this one too. This one I didn't even get to look at it, but it's on the FBI website. FBI. It's on vault.fbi.gov/COINTELPRO, which they talk about COINTELPRO in chaos. Dude, it's wild. They have all the documents that have been published, and they're like separated into the groups. They were, because this is on the actual FBI website, because now it's like common knowledge because of those Freedom of Information requests. They have it separated by white hate groups, the New Left, Puerto Rican groups, black extremists, hoodwink, I don't even know what that is, Cuba, Socialist Workers Party, and espionage programs. And if you click on each link, I only clicked on the black extremist ones because I was going to read about the Black Panthers. I wanted to read because they talked about it in chaos, but dude, it's so fucking vast. If you just click on that one, there's literally, let me see, I clicked on it. There's 23 PDFs, and the first PDF, I didn't even look at the other ones. The first PDF is like 130 pages of and it's all FBI documents. A lot of it's redacted. You'll see the black scribbled out, but dude, I really want to go through reading it. I'll send it to you. I feel like you and me should go through it, because each little section has what they were doing to each group. And I mean, most of the names are redacted, and a lot of the shit I was seeing, you could tell like big parts are missing. But it's super interesting because COINTELPRO they were the ones that were infiltrating all these, these groups. Like it's crazy, man. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy.
It's so crazy.
It's so crazy.
But yeah, man, I want to send you all these links just so we can put them up, just so people know.
Yeah, so everybody listening, if you guys are interested in checking out, double checking us, there's probably some shit that we said that was wrong. It is what it is. But we're not those type of people. We're trying to get the facts straight here. We're all about journalistic integrity here on the Mind Control podcast.
Yeah, we don't like to mix speculation and facts. But
getting into the weeds. We don't like getting into the weeds.
No, I definitely would recommend people, and I kind of feel weird that was the end of the podcast, just because all that shit was just super dark.
That's all good. That was interesting. That was definitely a lot of interesting stories there. So
and dude, that's not even like half of it. Oh, there's another. We'll put this one in it too, but the AHRP, it's the Alliance for Human Research Protection. That's actually how I found a lot of these cases, and then I looked them up after, because they've been around for a while, and they just report on all the shitty things that have been done through science. Even today, they don't have a lot about today, but they do have some shit, but all the way back through like World War II and everything, like all the atrocities. So it's cool. Some of it was hard to find information on, so I left some of those out, but yeah, it's a pretty interesting website, and it's like a .org, and I was looking it up, and it's all like official, all the shit on that website. So it is a cool. It's not just a bullshit website, Yeah,
I think that's fucking wild. It's crazy to think about how evil that human beings are and have always been, and now because we have social media and shit like that, it seems like we're almost like forced to evolve past the Neanderthalic violence that we just naturally are a part of. And it's like it's just. It's also crazy. It's almost like it makes me think like, oh, we're doing okay. Like hey, or at least we're not doing. I mean, and if people are doing that shit, I mean, like social media has its downsides. But the fact that if there's a study being found where they're putting gonorrhea in a bitch's butthole and fucking and that comes out nowadays, people are gonna be pissed off. You know what I'm saying? People that shit will not be okay, and that's a good aspect to. I wouldn't say cancel culture, but like, I don't know. I guess, being able to call out bullshit to the world through media, I think it's getting blurred because of the dumbass cancel culture type of aspect to it. But I think that it's almost like one of the most positive things about social media, on top of having so much more information and just being smarter as humans.
Yeah. And it's like right there.
Yeah. It's good that we have the ability to call bullshit out now, because shit like this,
dude, there's so much bullshit, and it's crazy how much of it was just done in the name of science. And like that girl that I said that gave the kids LSD when they were 3, she gave interviews up until she died, and she had always said that, like, that she didn't really regret it, and that she actually thought her work did a lot, for the community, and that she got results. I don't know what type of results, but I was like, that's so it's crazy, because I feel like Jolly West and those scientists were all the same. They didn't see anything wrong with what they were doing. They thought, oh, this is science. We got to figure it out somehow. Yeah. But it's like, where do you draw the line there? Oh man,
yeah, we fucking haven't talked about the book in like 30 minutes.
Dude, I know.
No, but in a good way. That was good. That was fun. I guess just to wrap up. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No, I was gonna say, should we mention next week? But if we're wrapping up,
just to wrap up the book, I guess, and talking about that, it's one of the most interesting books, if not the most interesting books I've ever read, heard or listened to. Going forward, just so everybody in the podcast knows, I don't really read books. I listen to them, but most of the time, I'll just say read, and rather than having to explain like I just said now, but I'll explain this one time. So going forward, you might hear me say read, but I'm actually listening. Anyways, so I've read that. It's one of the most interesting books I've ever read, and it's one of the things I also wanted to touch on is how Tom O'Neill mentioned in the podcast that he kind of feels like let down that it didn't cause more of a wave and shit like that. And Joe kind of told him, well, I didn't even know what the fucking book came out. Some of the whatever promotion they did was dog shit, or maybe it was being suppressed, which I wouldn't be surprised about either, algorithmically. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm sure the CIA has, like you said, it may or may not necessarily even be about the control over people's minds through LSD and physical beings, but I'm sure that there's operations that are working in online and social media mind control. You know what I'm saying? So either way, the book is amazing. I fucking loved it.
Yes, dude, it's a great book. Yeah, I would recommend it. And I know a lot of our friends are probably going to end up listening to this podcast. Yeah. You guys should fucking buy it or come borrow it. Like, cause it's. Honestly, I was right when I got into it, dude. It got me right away. Like I would sit down and I end up reading like 100 pages at a time, because it's just so fucking interesting.
Yeah, he's a good writer. Tom O'Neill's a good writer.
Yeah, really the way he strings it together, it's really good. You know, I like it.
It was kind of hard to keep control or to keep it all up because there's a lot of names and stuff going on. Yeah, there's a lot of shit going on.
I feel like that's why this podcast is so hard. The book is so vast. It's such a like when we do other music and movies, it'll be easier to keep it more
for sure.
Boxed in,
cohesive.
But it's like this thing deals with so much that it's like it's hard to talk about it without talking about everything else. You know,
exactly.
Yeah, it's crazy.
This was fun, man. I fucking had a lot of fun. That shit went by so quick. I think we just did over 2 hours. That's so crazy.
Yeah, should we cut it down? Are we going to cut it down a little bit?
Well, there'll be points that we'll cut out because we took breaks and stuff like that. But I think everything we talked about was super interesting. I don't know. We'll edit it, and then if I have any ideas or whatever, I'll let you know, and we'll see where it goes. But everybody listening, thank you guys for listening. I know we're going to talk about what we're going to listen or what we're going to allow to control our minds next week. That's so corny. I'm never going to say that again. But we're going to talk. So either way, if you guys are listening or you're watching on YouTube, if you can give the video a thumbs up or rate the podcast. I think it's like stars, goes by stars. Give us 5 stars if you enjoyed all that good shit. What we're going to do as of right now, before, I really want to involve everybody who listens. I want to kind of create a community here, a book club for gangsters is kind of my idea. Like a really cool book club, you know?
No,
So
hell yeah, dude.
like
I've always wanted to start a fucking book club.
Yeah.
This is it, man. This is the way. Yeah. I've always wanted to do it, and this would be perfect. Like this would be amazing to do it through here.
It's such a trip that like out of all the different types of media we've made, like music and videos and everything else, that we found ourselves podcasting at fucking damn near 30 years old, and it's so
you know,
much fun.
I'm not gonna lie, dude. This was a lot of fun because the last 3 days I've literally sat at this computer just because Frankie's been at work for like yesterday. I was here for like 8-9 hours, just literally just reading shit about, and it felt cool because I felt like I was doing it for a purpose. Like I was like, oh, I'm learning so I could talk about it, you know?
Exactly.
And it was cool giving me something to do because I've been wanting to make music lately, but it's just been, I don't know why it's been hard, but it's been hard to make music. So it's cool to do something still a little bit, you know, interesting, creative, keeping my mind moving and working, you know?
Absolutely.
Doing something.
Absolutely.
Man.
So like I was saying with the community, I really want to start it. So if you guys are interested in talking with us, check out our Discord. We're probably going to end up starting a Twitter as well, but the Discord we're both on. We're actually talking on the Discord now. Discord is a really cool program. It's just kind of like almost like a Skype thing. You can get it on your phone, download it, and look in the description of this YouTube video or this podcast, and the link should be there. And you'll become a part of the Discord server, and then we can just talk about different things. And going forward, I want to do a lot with this. I'd rather not say too much and not follow through with it. But I have a lot of ideas, and I want to and I'm really excited. So check out the Discord server. It'll be in the descriptions. And the scheduling wise, we're gonna try to do once a week. We don't know what day or whatever, but we'll announce that in the next episode probably. What we want to do is every episode we're going to obviously, like we say in the intro, discuss and review different types of art and media. As of right now, I chose Chaos, so Corey is going to choose the next project, and we're going to go back and forth. Eventually, I would like to involve the community and do like a voting system as to what we're going to check out and listen to or whatever or read. So just keeping that in mind, the bigger the Discord gets, the closer we'll be able to get to inviting you guys to make suggestions. And I hope that going forward that we kind of start this community of different discussions and topics, and we're all reading the same books together, and it is a gangster book club. But like I said, Corey's going to choose the next one. So what are we doing next week, Corey?
All right, so next week we're going to be doing the 2012 album. We're going to be doing Death Grips album called No Love Deep Web. It was released October 1st, 2012. I don't really want to say too much about it because I feel if we're going to devote an episode to it, might as well save everything about Death Grips. If you don't listen to Death Grips, I really like them. It's crazy. The music is it's definitely not what most people listen to.
I can't even. Oh my God.
Oh yeah, the cover is also crazy for this album. So I don't even feel like don't even say it yet. We'll just leave that. But yeah, that's the cover.
I don't think we're gonna have to blur. We're gonna have the. That's perfect.
Yeah. So No Love Deep Web by Death Grips. That's what we'll be reviewing next week. It's a crazy album, and I feel like I've listened to a lot of their other albums, and that one I've never really like dug deep into, so I'm excited.
I'm super interested what it's gonna be about after seeing the cover.
Oh yeah, man,
that's wild.
It's a cover.
I've never heard anything. I think I've heard like one or two songs from Death Grips, but not much. But I know you've always talked about them, so I'm super excited.
It's you're in for something, man.
So everybody, if you're listening, check out the Death Grips album, No Love Deep Web. If you're gonna look up the cover, do so when you're not at work or in front of small children.
True. It's a good thing to note.
But yeah, I am super happy that we did this, dude. Like this is actually really fun. I was kind of nervous about like how the podcast was going to go because I don't know. Sometimes it's awkward. Like just any like new podcasts are always weird, but obviously, we've been fucking family for a long time. So it was natural. And plus we had something to actually discuss and talk about.
Are we on record right now?
Yeah. We are on record right now. Hold on. But yeah, either way, we'll sign off. I appreciate everybody who's listening. That was fun. So yeah, we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah.
Mind control. That's how we do it, baby. GG's.
Mind control.